Hi guys, good evening. You're probably seeing it at that point. How's everybody doing on this interesting Friday? Uh, just really was burdened so much this morning by what I read out of God's Word that I had to do this vlog. And as I said, you're probably seeing it in the evening. But I want to share some things with you that God showed me from this as I was reading it and reminding me of the responsibility that I have and the responsibility that all of us as true followers of Christ have to be his agents of peace, as I like to put it, salt and light in the darkness. And I want to share some stuff. As I was reading this morning, I saw how Jesus was describing two very important things. I wanted to share some things out of my personal journal here. I see he's describing two very important things, two very important qualities in the redeemed follower of Christ. One is being his peacemaker, or agent of real peace. And I want to share something in that area with you. A couple of things. I got something very interesting from Asbury Commentary that I posted earlier, but I want to read the quote to you because I think it's important. It was something that really got me when it comes to being a peacemaker. In particular, Asbury Commentary is stating that the reference to this involves more than simply avoiding conflict or even attempting to reconcile warring parties. It stems from the Old Testament understanding of peace. The word for peace in Hebrew, in case anybody is wondering, is shalom. And the understanding of peace, and according to the Old Testament, is like this comprehensive wholeness and well-being. Okay, I'm going to quote this, okay? Please don't mind me, I'm going to read this. The reference to the peacemakers involves more than simply avoiding conflict or even attempting to reconcile warring parties. It stems from the Old Testament understanding of peace, or shalom, as comprehensive wholeness and well-being. Those who pursue this kind of peace do all they can to promote the welfare of others. Since God actively desires wholeness for all persons, he gladly will claim as his own sons who share in this enterprise. Bottom line here, a true peacemaker, it's somebody, and I want to read something out of my Bible that I really was challenged with. It talks about how the peacemakers will strive for harmony in all areas of life as a reflection on the inner peace that God brings to his children. But there's something interesting here. The derivation of the Greek word for peacemakers is used only here in the New Testament, which is very interesting. It refers to one who makes peace and seeks reconciliation rather than one who is passive and seeking peace at any cost. That means even being willing to compromise your standards. But it says here, a peacemaker separates herself from her own interests and whims and what is best for her. She becomes others-oriented with a deep concern for how the kingdom would be impacted by her actions. Now, this doesn't mean she's a doormat, people. But it also says she is willing to suffer injustice in order for peace to reign and Christ to be magnified. And Jesus goes on to say about when it comes to persecution. And I found it very, very, very telling, and I encourage you to read that for yourself. But I also see here, when he says about being salt and light, and this is what really got me, when he says here in verse 13 on, that we're of what we're supposed to be. It says here that we are salt and light. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? Or wherewithal shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Now, what does all that mean? Okay? What is it talking about being salt and being the light of the world? Well, I want to share with you some interesting things about salt. You can look this up for yourself to see if what I'm saying is true. But salt had some very interesting purposes. According to Bridgeway commentary, and this is something very interesting here, it says salt can be used to preserve food from decay and to give food flavor. Christ's people should have a similar effect upon the world as they resist the corrupting effects of sin and help make the world a better place to live. But if they do not discipline themselves to develop and maintain this salt-like quality, they will be of no use for God. Now, there's something interesting about salt. Some things I learned. It is used as a preservative, and it has a lot of different qualities aside from that. One I learned was, ironically, it was a form of money. And that interesting? I learned that from Pastor Hagee. But one of the interesting things about salt, also, when it talks about here, if it loses its flavor, what's it good for? It's good for nothing but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. I read somewhere that when a city would be completely destroyed, I believe it was when either the Greek or the Roman armies would do this, they would literally destroy it and then salt that area, whatever city it was, to kind of make it uninhabitable. At least that's what I read, okay? But salt is supposed to have this quality where it preserves food and it gives food flavor. And we're to be this way, as Bridgeway is saying here. We're to have this similar effect on the world as we are resisting what sin, the corrupting effects of sin, and there's so much of it going on right now. I had to share this with you guys. Top of which, to me, is the massive influence, the massive coercion, I'm going to use, of the LGBTQ mafia. I'm going to call them that because they are a mafia. These leftist individuals that want to expose our children to this ungodly lifestyle, this ungodly way of thinking and believing. And I would encourage you to go look up the activist mommy and see some of the things that she's been speaking out on this. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of something called Drag Queen Story Hour. If I were you, I'd look that up. It's scary. But here, part of this, I believe in being called to be salt and light, is we are called to speak the truth. We're called to be his light in the darkness. We're called to be his agents of peace. And we're to do this while resisting the influences of this world. I'm reading Benson's commentary in particular. It says, those who are themselves of a peaceable temper and endeavor to promote peace in others, in other words, who study to be quiet, it says that they are so far from sowing the seeds of discord between any of their fellow creatures that they both studiously avoid contention themselves. I thought that was interesting. But I believe that we're called to be salt and light. We're called to be flavor. I mentioned earlier about being a fragrance for the Lord. Remember, I mentioned about that not too long ago, how we're called to be this sweet-smelling savor, but to others, to those that reject the gospel, to those that are opposed to the gospel, we're this foul stench. Well, we're called to be, as I said, salt and light in the darkness. We're called to be something different. We're called to be God's peacemakers. And we're called to speak the truth in love as being salt and light. I firmly believe that. And I believe that we are called as redeemed followers of Jesus Christ to be that city on a hill, to be something different, to be that light in the darkness, to shine that light so that others will see Christ in us that they will see the truth. We need to speak the truth, and we need to do it in a loving manner. That doesn't mean being wimpy, and doesn't mean compromising. It doesn't mean allowing ourselves to be coerced by the LGBTQ mafia and the left into keeping our mouths shut. But we need to speak out, and we need to do so in a loving manner. You know, a while back I had the privilege of seeing the movie Unplanned, and there was something about the movie that really got me. And I really appreciated this. One of the things that they were doing was they were showing protesters, and they were showing the differences in the types of protesters. You see one group of people carrying around these signs that are graphic, showing baby parts, and I understand that's important. But their attitudes, the attitudes of the people that were showing these signs, and there was somebody literally roaming around as the Grim Reaper during this protest, and I've seen and heard of it. I thought this was really unchristlike, and I'm going to explain why. Because there was a person that was portrayed in that as part of that group that was yelling nasty things to a young woman that was going in. He actually said, "Oh, you should have kept your legs closed," something to that effect. And that really bothered me, because that, as I said again, it's unchristlike. This is not how we as Christians are supposed to be. This is not how we are supposed to be as his agents of peace. We're called to be something different. We're called to be his light in the darkness. We're called to be his peacemakers. And how are we being peacemakers when we're calling somebody a slut, pardon me? How are we being peacemakers when we're calling somebody who is living the the LGBTQ lifestyle foul names? And there are those of you out there that are doing that. And you're justifying it by perverting scripture. Now, I'm talking about standing against sin, standing against a sinful lifestyle, while still showing that person who is committing that sin the love of Jesus. We're called to love the sinner, yet stand against the sin. Try to remember that, people. And that's what it means to be his peacemaker, his representative, his agent of peace. That's what it means to be salt and light in the darkness. When we're speaking the truth and we're speaking it in a loving manner, it has the most effect. And I'll tell you, I know also that when we show this fragrance for Christ, it is going to repel people. It's going to really, really drive them nuts. And it's because they know the truth. It's because, and it's like I was saying here, it's gonna repel them. In 2 Corinthians 2 verse 15, it says that for we are unto God a sweet savor of Christ in them that are saved and in them that perish. And he goes on to say, when it comes to that either to one group of people we're going to be this wonderful sweet smelling savor, and to another we're going to be the stench of death. And it refers to, of all the ironies, a conquered foe. When a foe was conquered by the Romans, they would have this parade and they'd have this incense spread around. And to those that were conquered, it wasn't a good scent. And we're called to not only be salt and light in this dark world, but we're to be a sweet savor. Or like the New Living Translation says, a Christ-like fragrance to everybody around us, so that the name of Jesus will be seen and known. And I asked this before, when it comes to that. What does your fragrance, your spiritual fragrance, smell like? Is it something that's Christ-like and honoring, that draws people to him? Or is it something disgusting? And I know that initially, when we speak the truth in love, to that person it's going to be disgusting. But when we continue to show the love of Jesus, when we speak the truth in love, it will be hopefully and prayerfully obvious to them that we are speaking the truth and we are doing it in a loving manner, and they will be drawn to Christ. But if we act like the person that's yelling at someone going into a Planned Parenthood to get an abortion that they're a slut, they need to keep their legs closed, or if we're roaming around like the Grim Reaper in a Grim Reaper outfit, or displaying these disgusting signs. Now, I've got nothing against portraying the accurate, graphic truth of what an abortion is, but you don't need to go about it like that. Now, I do applaud, I believe they are called, there's a group I believe called Created Equal, that they were just simply in peaceful fashion holding signs that showed the truth about abortion. And there were a couple people that got so quote unquote triggered, they committed violent acts and they got arrested. I saw a video of one person, one young girl, that actually yanked a sign away and she was going to throw it away, but it just so happened there happened to be a police officer right there in the scene. And she wound up getting arrested for larceny. And she acted so shocked, like she thought she was innocent despite doing something wrong. And this is where, when you're speaking the truth in love and somebody is repelled by it, this is the consequence in one aspect for a person who refuses to hear the truth. And I pray that she did hear the truth and really listen to it. But aside from that, we need to be his agents of peace. And we can't do that when we're acting like the world, when we're berating others, when we're putting others down. We need to speak God's truth in a loving, Christ-like manner. We need to be that Christ-like fragrance. And that's why I firmly believe that as his peacemaker, we need to be representing him, the one who brings true and lasting peace to everybody in this lost and dying world. And I don't know about you, but I want to make certain that I'm representing him properly in that area. And I pray today, my prayer for all of you today, as I'm ending this, is that you choose to be God's agent of peace, his agent of real and lasting peace, to be willing to share with others in love the peace that passes all understanding, and be someone who pursues this peace with everything that you've got, that you choose to be his salt and light in the darkness, and lead those who are lost in this darkness to the one who can and will save them. Do so by example. Choose to be his peacemaker by example. Show the world out there Christ in you through your actions. And I also pray today that if there's anybody out there that does not know Christ, that if you're lost in the darkness of sin, if you're lost in the darkness of alcohol, drugs, sexual sin of any kind, including homosexual, the LGBTQ sexual lifestyles, I pray that you will see the truth, that you are being lied to in these areas, and that you will come to know Christ before it's too late today. I want to tell you how much God truly loves you. He's not mad at you. He's madly in love with you, and he proved it through sending his one and only son to die for you. He doesn't care about your lifestyle, your skin color, your faith, your ethnicity, or anything about you, or what you've done or where you're from. He just wants to be your Savior today. John 1:12 says, "But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name." And I'm urging you today to pause this and just talk to God and ask God to cleanse you of your sins. Admit that you're a sinner. Admit that you do wrong things, that you deserve the punishment of hell, eternal separation from him in hell. But that you know that he sent his one and only son to die for you, and ask Jesus to come into your life today. Choose to accept him today. I even have a link here if you don't know what words to say, but pray whatever you pray and mean it with your heart. Please do it before it's too late. We're facing a world that is so hostile to Christ. It's scary. And I pray that you make that decision to come to know Christ today. I've got to get going, but I wish you all a really good Friday. And I pray that you choose to be his agent of peace, to be salt and light in this darkness. And don't let anyone stop you from being that. Bye for now.